Good evening. Welcome to the March 5th Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Teresa, you will call the roll.
Councilman Whalen. Councilwoman Standard. Here. Councilman Romano.
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowit. Supervisor Barrett.
Here, I do want to mention, I can't remember the last time we had 3 board members. Mr. Whalen had a death in the family, and Ms. Wallowit is ill. So, all the best to them, certainly to Jim and his family, and wish Linda a speedy recovery. We'll get right to it. We do have a couple of minutes on the table from February 12th and 20th.
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard. Yes. Councilman Romano.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett.
Yes. Communications and announcements. Just want to quickly brief everybody where we are on our streetlights initiative. For those that don't know, the town has been pursuing an initiative that would include the town purchasing all of the streetlights in town from National Grid. We had a presentation on this a few months ago now. And currently all the streetlights in town are owned by National Grid. Legislation that was passed by the New York State Legislature a couple of years ago paved the way to allow municipalities to buy those streetlights from National Grid or any energy supplier that owns the poles in an individual municipality. Why would we do such a thing? Well, there's significant cost savings to be had. The first thing we would do is change out all the old technology bulbs to new LED lighting technology. That would immediately reduce our energy usage that we're paying for substantially. If we own the pole, and if we wouldn't actually own the whole pole. You see, I know this gets a little down in the weeds here, but you see a pole with a light, with a street light on it, right? We wouldn't own the actual pole, we would just own the arm and the bulb. So that's what the town would be responsible for when it comes to maintenance in the future. But we're paying as every municipality does, a maintenance fee to National Grid for the poles each year, as well as paying for the energy that's used. So we can reduce the energy that's used, obviously, that would reduce our bills. If we can take on the maintenance and eliminate the maintenance charge from National Grid, that too would be a significant savings. So we felt the savings were enticing enough that it would behoove us to proceed with a request for proposal process, which we have done. That response went out. We received 3 responses back. We also spoke to National Grid about an option that they offered as well. So no decision has been made as to which contractor we will choose at this point, but the interviewing committee of Councilman Romano, myself, Tom McCarthy, we had very good interviews with a few companies. All of them could do the job. It's just a matter of selecting the right contractor for the type of job that we have in the town of Clifton Park. And because nobody in the no municipality in the National Grid territory has taken the process from start to finish, there are only a select amount of companies that have a lot of experience in this area. A lot of that experience has occurred in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has allowed this for a longer period of time, and there's been a number of municipalities in Massachusetts that have completed the process from start to finish. So, so again, right now we finished the interviews with the contractors that responded to our RFP. The interviewing committee will be making a recommendation to the full town board in the near future, at which point we would select a contractor and begin the process. Right now, if you're in the National Grid territory and you're pursuing this initiative, you're basically on hold at the moment because there will be some changes that are expected to result from the current rate case that's in front of the PSC. National Grid and PSC are currently going back and forth. National Grid has asked for a rate increase, and of course during that process there's other discussions about policies and programs and so on and so forth that, you know, I'm sure they're talking about a million different things. But obviously what affects us as New York residents, well, it's what the rates will be and certain programs like the Streetlight Initiative that Clifton Park's very interested in accomplishing. So that's where we are at the moment, and so we're hoping, from what we're told, the rate case will be completed, all the decisions will be made by the PSC in the April-May time frame, and that will give us more visibility as to what the any changes in the process might be going forward regarding municipalities and the ability to purchase their streetlights. So that's where we are, but I just wanted to give an update and say and thank everybody for all the time and effort that they've invested in this process. The significant savings that we saw were possible are definite at this point from everything that we can see. Until you get those RFP responses back, you don't have the hard numbers to really decipher and to analyze. Now that we have those numbers, it looks very promising. So at this point, my recommendation would be that we continue to move forward, select a contractor, and get this done. Okay, so we'll have further updates in the next few weeks, but that is the latest. Okay, we have a busy agenda tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, does anybody else have any communications or announcements? We have a busy agenda tonight. We're going to start by honoring a new Eagle Scout in our midst. His name is Keegan Carl Skinner. We have a resolution in his honor, and Teresa, if you could read that, please.
A resolution recognizing Keegan Carl Skinner for attaining the rank of Eagle Scout in service to his community, whereas Keegan Carl Skinner has demonstrated leadership and proven himself to be an outstanding member of Boy Scout Troop 45, and whereas Keegan has successfully earned the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest award a Boy Scout can earn, by completing his Eagle Scout project, which included conceptual planning, fundraising, organizing volunteers, purchasing materials, and providing physical labor. And whereas Keegan conceived an Eagle Scout project to enhance trail routes within the Clifton Gardens Park and Trail system by adding trail directional markers, benches, and an informational kiosk. And whereas Keegan Skinner's project provided a clear connection to access Clifton Gardens Park from the surrounding streets and helped improve the internal trail connectivity from those neighborhood access points to the park, and whereas Keegan's initiative, energy, and motivation to give back to his community will serve to prepare him for meaningful and productive role in society. And whereas such service is the lifeblood of the community, and the town board wishes to recognize effective community service among our residents and volunteers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Clifton Park Town Board honors the accomplishments of Keegan Carl Skinner as an outstanding citizen for his achievements and advances, and recognizes Keegan as the community's newest Eagle Scout. Also be it resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Keegan Carl Skinner.
Very good. I move that we approve the resolution with a second by the board. Okay.
Councilwoman Standard? Yes. Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. Mr. Skinner, come on up, sir. How are we doing tonight?
Well, like I said before, it's a Monday evening, so I think we're all getting back into the work week after, at least for us, a nice long weekend after having a snow day. So that was nice.
Oh, that's right, you got a snow day Friday.
We did.
We don't get snow days.
Darn.
Yeah, we have to work harder on snow days. Isn't that right, Mr. Bull? He's just waking up. Well, make sure you're awake for Wednesday, because the winter isn't leaving anytime soon. But you might get some more snow days, I guess is my point.
Works for me.
But, you know, I was very honored to attend your ceremony recently and learn more about you personally and everything that you're involved with. Tell us, I got tired just listening to everything you're involved with, but tell us about just some of the activities that you're involved with in high school.
Well, to start, my school has a JROTC program.
Where your school is?
Christian Brothers Academy in Albany. I'm second in command of 350 high school students, where I'm responsible for all staff operations, filling in for the cadet colonel when he's not there, and pretty much serving as the operations manager of the brigade. You know, whereas the cadet colonel is really the face of the brigade. So pretty much I just
You're
have
the S1.
That's just one of my many responsibilities.
Yeah. And tell us about some of your other activities that you're involved with.
I serve as the team captain for the track and field team at my school, team captain of the mock trial team, among other things. I'm involved in National Honor Society, LaSalle Youth Leadership Organization.
Martial arts?
Martial arts, yes. I'm a second-degree black belt over at U.S. Budokai Karate, and I'll be looking to go to a third degree this year.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So like I said, I get tired just listening to everything that he's involved with. So tell us about your project. Why did you choose the improvement of the trails in the Clifton Gardens area as your Eagle Scout project? And tell us a little bit about what went into making that happen. That was a huge project you undertook.
Sure. So pretty much I knew I wanted to do something outdoors, because that's always where my interests lie. I was initially contacting the town just to come up with some ideas, because they're always looking for Eagle Scouts to perform these different tasks.
Sure.
You know, I was looking at projects over at Kings Road Park, more different trail extensions, and then I said, I'm going to take a walk through my neighborhood just to see if there's anything maybe in my park that I could do. So we started off maybe cleaning off the graffiti and some of the playground equipment, but took a walk through the nature trail that was already existing back there just to clear my head. I said, I can see houses over there. I went home, I went on Google Earth, and I saw that there's this little boundary extension that the town had, because it was marking where the town property ended and where the personal property started.
Sure.
So it's pretty cool. There's just a small little trail that goes right to where the tree line is for the existing trail. I wonder if I could turn that into the Scout project. So contacted Miss Caskey and Miss Vigiani and let them know of what I came aware of, and sure enough, that ended up becoming my project. Basically, we brought in some small construction vehicles to clear some trees, to move dirt around, to level it out. So we created a trail that connected the existing nature trail from my neighborhood park to another neighborhood, that's Barberry Fields, which connects right into Moe Road. So pretty much the whole purpose of the project was to help allow students who typically walk to school or bike to school an easier access point to get to the sidewalk on Moe Road, so they could avoid going on Grooms Road or Clifton Park Center Road, since those are much more dangerous to drive on without any shoulder. So,
Right.
in addition to that, I put trail markers, I put up a couple benches, and I put up a kiosk that had an image of what the trail ended up becoming.
Yeah, it was a tremendous project, a lot of work. You must have had a lot of help, besides from your parents,
Of course,
Tell us about that, how you used your junior ROTC experience to get a group together and make it happen.
Well, through the leadership skills that I've developed in both Boy Scouts and through JROTC, I was able to enlist the help of my friends, family, numerous scouts at Troop 45, and several adults as well who were crucial to being able to do this project. I wouldn't have been able to do it without a very good family friend of ours, George Saris, who happened to have the construction equipment in his backyard. That was it, to bring it over to the park.
We all need a friend with construction equipment in the backyard. I mean, that's pretty good.
So without
What's his
them,
number? Very good. So, and it's great because your project will live on for a long, long time. I mean, for many, many years. People in that area of town, or maybe getting from one part of town to the other, as you mentioned, along our trail network, will use that area to easily and safely get from one place to another, and you should be very proud of that. So it'll be a wonderful legacy for you and your family and your Eagle Scout, or your Scout troop, I should say. So we congratulate you for all your hard work.
thank you.
Now, next, you're going on to Villanova.
I am.
ROTC scholarship.
That is correct.
Fantastic. Now, I do have to remind you, since your ceremony, Providence did beat Villanova. I don't know, did you see that?
I'm well aware of that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I told at the ceremony, I said, well, the next time Providence plays Villanova, be sure to keep Keegan in mind. And Providence did win. So.
Yeah, unfortunately.
They don't beat Villanova too often, so the fact that they won was good. But, so what are you going to study while you're there?
Well, I plan on doing a double major at the business school in finance and business analytics, heading off to law school, and then going off to graduate school to earn my doctorate, where I intend to then go into the to serve probably about a lifetime military career and part-time civilian career, where I'll be serving as an attorney and potentially as a financial planner.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, you got it all mapped out. That's pretty much how he is, right, Dad? Yeah. It seems like he plans. He obviously manages his time very well, and that'll serve you well as you take on more responsibility in your studies and your extracurricular activities in college. I had an ROTC scholarship to Providence. It's a whole another level of commitment and time, but it's very rewarding as well. So I know you'll do great. How about a round of applause for our new leader? Well, Keegan, we're very proud of you for everything you've accomplished so far and everything that we know you're going to accomplish in the future. This is a copy of the resolution that we just passed in your honor. We wish you nothing but the best of luck at Villanova. You're going to make your mark there just like you made it here in Clifton Park and then beyond. So God bless you and keep up the good work. Make us proud.
Thank you, sir.
One more round of applause for our friends. Firm handshake, too. So it'll soon be a third-degree black belt on top of everything else. So don't mess with Keegan. When you're a second lieutenant, you'll need that. That'll come in handy. All right, we also have a couple of folks with us here from the back. We just had our annual Winterfest in the town of Clifton Park. Very successful event as always, and I want to thank everybody that worked so hard to make that happen. There were some, as usual, we had a lot of outdoor events, and there was snow this year, so we had a lot of fun at a few of the different parks around town, and then also we had our inside events as usual with our Clifton Park Idol competition, as well as our ever popular soup contest. And we had an amazing amount of people that showed up again and voted. It was a packed house over at the Hilton, and it was a close vote, but the winner was Peddler's Bar and Bistro. Isn't that right, official
Yes, they were.
vote counter?
Yeah.
Well, what was it, 4 votes?
2.
2 votes. And we
They
feel
won by 2.
Wheatfields was second, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Peddlers won by 2 votes, which is not abnormal. We've had in the past years other restaurants that won by 1 vote, 2 votes, handful of votes. So just shows that there's a lot of great competition. Obviously, Clifton Park has a lot of great restaurants, and Peddlers is certainly one. So we have a couple guys from Peddlers if they can come up. How we doing tonight? Why don't you introduce yourselves and talk about what you do at Peddlers?
Kyle Jones, production manager. Elliot Dawson, I'm the executive chef over there.
You're the executive chef. So was it your idea for this soup?
It was actually my production
Oh,
manager's
okay.
idea.
So you had the idea, you executed.
Yep.
Good team right here. Good team. So your winning soup was very good, by the way. Country roasted chicken pot pie soup. So that was the winner. And you guys have come close in the past, right?
Yeah, I lost a couple of times by 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is always close.
So you were working your way, and they finally broke through and won the contest. So just want to congratulate you very much. Thanks for coming here tonight, so we can present this with you. I'm sure this will be the first thing people see now when they walk into Peddlers, which has I like the lunch at Peddlers. I think you guys have a great lunch. On top of it, everything's good, but the lunch is superb. So I just want to get your picture real quick and congratulate you on a victory. How about a round of applause for our friends at Peddlers?
Sorry?
All right. Congratulations. We'll see you back next year, right?
Hopefully.
Give it another shot. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
Back to work.
Yeah, it used to be all the restaurants were closed on Mondays, but not so much anymore, right? They're going back to work, but congratulations to Peddlers, and you do a nice job. Okay, want to do one more quick thing, Matt. Where is he, Matt? On the playground.
Sure.
You know, we have a playground initiative that we've been talking about at different town board meetings, and we can move this around the hair. Now, I call it the playground on the common because not everybody, like if you call it kids corner, not everybody knows what kids corner is. But this is so we just call it playground on the common. This is the one next to the ice arena. Perhaps some of you played on it as little kids, and some of you brought your kids over there. Which one's the mover here? Oh, okay, good. Use the arrows?
Use the arrows.
All right, I can figure that out. All right, so what we've been looking at is some upgrades and updates to the playground on the common, as I'll call it. We presented a month or so ago some different ideas for changes that we were considering. And I won't go through all of them again tonight, and we did put that information online for people that are interested. But one of the things that we identified was replacing some of the individual attractions that weren't as popular anymore. They had been patched and fixed over the years as much as we could, but they just don't quite work the way they used to. You know, the playground's 30 years old. It is made out of wood, so you know, as it ages, there are some limitations. So, but we also understand and have heard loud and clear this year and in past years that people love the playground and they don't want it to change too much. So we understand that as well. So our thinking was to take a portion of the park and update, if you will, take out some of those individual attractions and install new equipment that would be for a toddler age group, say 2 to 6. And that's what we have here. Now, as you drive along the back of the ice arena and you take that right to get to the park, okay, that's the front of the park. That's the main entrance. So as you're walking up to the main entrance, this would be the area on your immediate left in the front, okay? If you remember, there's, 3 individual attractions there, and I gave you a description of their current condition. So this is 4 different views of the new equipment that we're considering. And again, this would be for the 2-year-old to 6-year-old age range. Same equipment, just 4 different angles. And as you can see, obviously much different than the current playground construction, made out of materials that you would see at playgrounds today. The other big feature is the floor. It's a rubber matting, okay? Currently we have pea stone, which is very effective and is used in many parks around the country, but currently it's pea stone. So what we would do is when this is installed, if this is indeed the decision that the town board decides to take, or the course we decide to take, just this area would be rubber matting, and we would leave the remainder as pea stone. And there would be definitive delineation between this rubber matting and this area in the rest of the park, okay? So basically, in that front left quadrant, we're taking out what's there and putting this in. And again, this is just 4 different views of the same equipment. The reason we have 4 different views, obviously, because you can't see everything from one slide. So we think this is a very good option, one that should be strongly considered, and one that we would hope the community would support. We have a committee that's working on this, made up of representation from parents that use the facility, use the playground, and town staff as well. So that's the latest. The second thing that we've been considering is what to do with the brick path that goes around the playground. And if you're familiar with the brick path, a lot of the bricks have names engraved on them. Many years ago, when the playground was constructed, there was an initiative to sell bricks to raise money for the park. But after decades of wear and tear and being out in the elements and a lot of foot traffic, those bricks are not in the best of condition. The other thing that's happened is, as the trees have become bigger and the roots spread a little more, it has compromised parts of the path as well. So what's happened is the roots have grown out into the path, the bricks are now heaving, so that adds to some of the challenges. So what to do? Well, obviously we don't want to just push aside the investment that was made by the folks that originally purchased the bricks. So we do definitely want to make sure that anybody, and we've heard this from people, that, and it was one of the options we presented a couple of months ago, is that we'd like to have people, if they want their brick back, get them their brick. But the thought was to have another initiative where we would have a program where people can purchase an engraved paver, and instead of using the pavers in the same fashion as you see now with the brick path, instead have some kind of an entranceway and a wall as you're walking into the park, something that's decorative. It would display the pavers and the people that have invested in the new improvements. The thought is, if we try to take the bricks that are there out, remove that brick path, and replace the brick path with more bricks, that you know, it won't be too far down the line where, you know, another town board will be faced with the decision of having an area that, again, has been worn due to foot traffic and being out in the elements, so on and so forth. So we feel, we believe at this point, doing something a little different would be best for future maintenance, future attractiveness of the park, and having a wall and something decorative and useful as you enter the park, we believe would be better than, you know, having a brick path where those bricks are going to get compromised and deteriorate over time. Okay, so I don't have a picture or a sketch of what that may look like yet. We will soon, and I'll certainly present it here. But we did get this sketch, and we are this far along at least in considering new equipment. So I wanted to be able to show that right away to anybody that is interested. So that's what we're looking at. As always, we appreciate input and ideas. I want to thank everybody that's contacted us so far with their thoughts and opinions and ideas when we released our first round of ideas that we had and the areas that we were looking to improve, you know, the opportunities for future improvement. So I want to thank everybody for contacting us on that, but we'd appreciate your input every step of the way. So these pictures will go online if they're not up already, and again, we welcome your thoughts and opinions, okay? So again, this would just be for that front left quadrant, and it would be for a younger age group, 2 to 6. But that is something that we've heard from folks that they would appreciate if there were going to be improvements in the future. We also look at this as a transition point. As much as we love that park, and there's a tremendous attachment to that park from our community, it was built by volunteers. People, you know, invested their money, and the money was raised to build that park initially, and we understand that. But it is wood, and it does have a shelf life. So we do need to look ahead to the future, do the best we can with what's there. I mean, we do have, every year we perform a tremendous amount of maintenance on that wood that is used in the construction of the park, and certainly that will not change this year. We'll be out there very soon with a maintenance program again this year. But you know, at some point, more changes and improvements will need to be made. It's just a matter of time. So anyway, that's where we are so far. We'll have more information as it becomes available. Okay. And as soon as the snow stops and the weather gets halfway decent, there will be a lot of families back at that park. We understand that it's still a very popular place, and we want to continue to be able to offer the best possible experience for kids of all ages. So we believe this is a great first step. As far as the cost, for what you see there, be approximately $80,000. It is the rubber matting is very expensive. We actually, as one option, considered installing a different surface other than the pea stone that's there now, and it's just not a workable solution. I'll just take the matting for instance. The cost is substantial. It's not inexpensive at all. It's about $20,000 just for that one small area. But it wouldn't make sense to install that throughout the park now, especially knowing that we will need to make further adjustments to the park in the future, and that if we made that investment now, it would be lost when those alterations are made. So we're going to leave the rest of the park as it is with some minor modifications, and again, conduct our regular maintenance as we do. But we have we have town crews that are there every week because the park is old, it's made of wood, and requires a great deal of maintenance. So we'll be down there a lot again, but again, we want to make it as safe and an enjoyable experience as possible. Okay, next presentation tonight is by Lansing Engineering, and actually, Matt, could you move the screen down a little bit, because Scott's got a, want to make sure that we can get that front and center a little bit. Thank you. Now this this development proposal is for the property at 146 and 146A. It is the northeast quadrant of the intersection. The property is zoned for business, B3. The owner of the property has discussed a number of possible development applications in the past. First was apartments, which requires town board approval, and the town board was not in favor of a large apartment development in that area. I think the owner of the property, I think it was in the community news, Glenn, maybe, when Scott Earl was at the planning board meeting and said that he had mentioned it to us and we almost had a heart attack. I think that's how we phrased it. It wasn't that bad, you know, just for the record. But he then submitted an application for a commercial use and retail. I think it was all retail, John, or was it retail and office? I don't recall.
It was retail uses.
Yeah, it was all retail buildings, which followed zoning. I know the planning board at that time heard from many people that live nearby, and probably other parts of town, that the commercial development in that area, even though that was what it was zoned for, was not something they were in favor of, and they'd much rather have a residential use. And this, the owner of the property came back with this proposal that is now in front of us. Now, because it's not zoned for residential, it does require town board approval. The first application for the retail buildings did follow zoning, so it did not require town board approval. So based on the, as I said, based on the comments from many folks in the community, he is now submitted for residential use, so it does need town board approval. So why don't you tell us about some of the details of what's being considered here, Mr. Lansing, and John will tell us what the planning board's recommendation entailed after you are done.
Okay, good evening. My name is Scott Lansing with Lansing Engineering. I'm here tonight representing Scott Earl of Route 146 and Route 146A Properties, LLC. Thank you for having us on the agenda this evening. As the supervisor did mention, what we have here is a plan development district. We are essentially embarking on the third step in the process. The board may recall that we were, this was on the agenda several months ago where it was referred to the planning board. We have since appeared in front of the planning board. We did present the project to the planning board, ultimately for a referral back to this board. We did get a positive referral from that board back to this planning board, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But now we're at the step where we're here in front of the town board. We're ultimately asking for approval of the plan development district, approval of the legislation that would adopt this as permitted use on the parcel. And that's essentially all we're asking of this town board. We're not looking for details to be ironed out as far as exact locations or grades or things of that nature. those are all things that we would ultimately go back to the planning board after the hopeful approval of this plan development district, go back to the planning board and then iron out all those technical issues with the planning board. So as far as the project itself, as the supervisor did mention, we're on the northeast corner of Route 146 and 146A. North orientation is towards the top of the sheet. We do have 3 parcels totaling 27.71 acres. The parcel is currently vacant at this time. Zoning is R1. There is a small section of R1 in the top portion, with the balance of the parcel is zoned B3, which is a neighborhood business zoning. As far as uses, the aerial photo in the background I think does a great job demonstrating what is around the project to the north. We have residential uses, that is the Sherwood Forest, and the Jonesville Firehouse as well is in this location. This is I believe Marlborough Drive and Buckingham Court. To the south we have Route 146. There is an office complex, there's also an auto service station, and obviously further down across the street on 146 is the Market 32 Cumberland Farms, car wash, Rite Aid, things of that nature. Off to the east we do have Arnold Drive down in this area, and then there's open vacant land, and to the west we have 146 and also some vacant land off on the western side. Soils are a silt loam. There is currently a geotech evaluation being performed on the site. We will have more information on that as we advance. Off on the east, we do have the Dwasdale, does meander down and goes across Route 146. As far as wetlands on the parcel, we do have Army Corps of Engineer wetlands on the parcel. We have approximately 1.2 acres. Primarily in this area right here, there's one finger that comes up. I believe there's another small area up in the northwest area of the parcel. As far as proposed conditions, the supervisor did a great job of outlining some of the history of this project. But basically what the applicant did is took a look at the parcel, took a look at the surrounding uses, took a look at the market that is out there currently. What we came up with was a residential PDD, and this is proposed obviously in accordance with Article 11 of the Town of Clifton Park Zoning Code. And the primary use here is condominiums. The condominiums are targeting young professionals, retirees, empty nesters. They are proposed to be owner-occupied, where previous applications were apartments, or previous ideas were apartments, where obviously the apartments would be rented. These would be owner-occupied units. There would be a condominium association. All of the residents within this project would be members of that condominium association. Would be a maintenance-free community in that as a part of the condo association, things like snow plowing, lawn maintenance, just general maintenance of the units and roadways and infrastructure would be maintained by the condominium association. What we're proposing are a variety of different units. We have essentially 4 different types of units. We have 4-unit buildings. We have 27 4-unit buildings for a total of 108 units of 4-unit buildings. And we have 2 different types of 4-unit buildings. It might be tough to see from where you're sitting, but there are these gray units and these the brown units. The gray units have garages basically on the backs of the units, so that the front of the building is facing towards the main roadway. The backs are where the garages are and the access are. Then the brown units are where both the entrance and the garages are located on the front of the building, and I'll get into that a little bit more a little bit later. We also have 5 2-unit buildings scattered about. We have a couple in different areas, and then last but not least, we have 14 single-family units, and those are located in the northern portion, closer by the existing single-family to the north. As far as the types of units and how we position those, we tried to provide those in a manner that we felt was a good transition, and considered the adjoining uses in that. We have 146, 146A, so we had our higher density, the 4-unit buildings in the center portion, where we had the 2 units in single family in the north, again trying to consider our neighbors in the project. All of the structures would be 2-story structures. The units would be approximately 1,200 to 1,600 square feet per unit. They're proposed to have high-end amenities, and all of the units would have individual garages, so each unit would have its own dedicated garage and parking space outside of the structure as well. The applicant is considering a potential clubhouse by the access to the project. That's something that is considering based on market demands, but if that is implemented, it would be approximately 3,000 square feet would include gathering rooms, kitchenette, and offices. All the parking for the proposed project would be in accordance with the Town of Clifton Park Code. As far as access for the project, our main point of access would be off of Route 146. We are providing a boulevard-type access to come in and service all of the units. We're also proposing a secondary access off on the south. This would be by Ravenswood and down to 146A. This at this time is contemplated to be something that would have a gate with a Knox box and a key, so that could be utilized in emergency situations, but would not be something that would be utilized on a daily basis by the residents of this project. All of the roadways in the project are proposed to be private roadways, so they would not be dedicated to the town. They would be owned, operated, and maintained by the condo association. So as far as snow plowing, maintenance, things of that nature, would be the condo association taking care of that. There was a traffic study performed. Creighton Manning Engineering was retained to provide a traffic study. That traffic study was coordinated with the New York State Department of Transportation, and we did get some comments back from DOT, but essentially, I'll read one, which I think is the most significant. We agree with the conclusions of the assessment and that the proposed development will not have a significant impact on the adjacent roadway system, and no off-site mitigation is required. The only significant comment that we did receive from DOT was relative to this particular curb cut. They asked if we could consider moving it slightly to the north, and that is something that we can do. And they obviously want us to double check site distance on that, but that is something that we can relocate and coordinate with the planning board, hopefully as we move forward with the project. As far as wetland impacts on the project, we have 0.048 acres of wetland impacts. We have the Army Corps of Engineer wetland that comes up. We have a small crossing in this area, and there's also a couple ends on that wetland that we have to impact for the units, but overall very minimal wetland impacts associated with the project. As far as utilities, water would be from Route 146A, would be extended into the project. Sanitary sewer is down on 146, down on the south, and stormwater would be mitigated on site. Conceptually, we do have stormwater basins scattered throughout the parcel, but we would obviously work with the planning board and the town engineer on the exact design of that. Overall, we feel
the association would own those ponds, right?
Correct, yes. As far as the project overall, what we tried to do on this project is create some neighborhood design elements into the project. First off, being that the project is relatively compact, we tried to keep that traditional neighborhood feel, linear streets where possible, and compact in nature. As far as open space on the project, I feel we have significant open space. We have approximately 19.3 acres, or 69% overall on the project. We also tried to implement buffers on the project, especially to adjoining neighbors. Probably the most significant one is up towards the north, up towards the existing residential structures. We're implementing a 100-foot buffer in that area. Of that buffer, 75% of it would be a no-cut area. Also, mailbox center. We do have a mailbox center proposed as you come into the project. Would be a gazebo, pull-off area, a place where people could pull off and get their mail. I think probably one of the biggest items of the project is relative to the streetscape and the pedestrian connectivity with the project. In that, again, on the condominium units in the gray shade, we have the front of the unit where that is the front facade, where it would be the front doorway, basically porches or whatever the final architectural elements might be, but that is on the front of the structure as opposed to garages and access points. We have alleyways in the back, and that's where all the vehicular access would be. So along the roadways, we have sidewalks, street lights, street trees, the front facade of the structures, and that has been implemented in the project as much as possible, with the exception of some units where they back up to open space areas, and we didn't feel it was appropriate to run another alleyway around back to implement those same types of units. So as far as walkability and a pedestrian-focused project, that was the primary goal for this project, and I feel that we have achieved it on the project. As I did mention before, we were in front of the planning board. We did get a positive referral from the planning board back to the town board. That's obviously why we're here this evening. We did get some comments from them, and I would imagine you'll have John Scavo chime in as well. But basically, our understanding of the comments from the board, they had some likes, some concerns, and items to investigate moving forward. As far as the likes, my interpretation of the feedback from them is that they like the residential versus the commercial layout that was presented prior. We obviously did go in front of that planning board with that commercial development to a pretty specific level of what the applicant was proposing, and they like this type of use for the parcel much better than the commercial use. As far as the transition of uses and the units themselves, they like the transition how it's from a commercial corridor, a moderate density down to a lower density down to the single-family density to the north of the project. They like the condominiums. They like the ownership aspect of the individual residential units. They also like the streetscape with the street lights, the street trees, things of that nature. And then I think most of all, I think they like the pedestrian focus and the walkability of the overall project. As far as concerns, I think the biggest concern that I took away from the board, and I feel it was the board was pretty well split on it, was as far as the density on the project. And there were some that felt that it was a concern. Others felt that, well, the density is something that is needed, is something that's needed for the amenities that are proposed on the project. And in looking at the density on the project, we take a look at this project and we tried to apply some numbers to it so the board can consider that based on other projects. And basically on this project, our units per acre is 4.76 units per acre. And just like the board to consider that with in light of the R1 use, which is a lesser or less intense use than the B3 use on the southern portion. That zone allows 1 unit for every 20,000 square feet, so it's basically 2 units per acre. So, we're 4.76, 2 units per acre, and then the B3 use is kind of way above that as far as charts go, as far as commercial, what kind of intensity and density could be positioned on that. Also comparing.
So you're saying the density is less because it's residential?
Correct, yes. And as far as comparing this project to other residential projects, if you look at your typical apartment project, it's in the 8 to 12 units per acre range. If you get into some projects, I know it's not necessarily a comparison, but some projects, say in Saratoga Springs, were higher density type of condos or apartments. You're upwards of 20, 25 units per acre, something in that range. So we feel that based on numbers alone, the 4.76 is a very reasonable density for a project location by a commercial corridor, transitioning from a commercial corridor to a single-family use. We feel it's appropriate for the area. Some of the items that the board felt we should investigate moving forward. Number one was relative to this access point. There was a thought that perhaps instead of that being a gated access, that perhaps that could be a full access for the project. And that's something that we could work with the planning board on as we hopefully move forward. And obviously something we have to coordinate with DOT. DOT has looked at what we have and the concept that we have. We have to revisit that with them as well as with the planning board as well. Last but not least, another item that they wanted us to investigate moving forward was relative to the connectivity between this project and the commercial projects to the south, making sure that we have all of these residents having the ability to walk to the areas to the south, to use those businesses, and become part of a community. So that's essentially it. Again, we're here this evening for comments from the board and take that next step in the process and hopefully advance towards the PZD approval. Thank you very much.
I'm sure it's been in the press for months now, but we're working with DOT on a major reconstruction project on 146, 146A intersection.
Yes.
So that'll either be an improvement to what's there under the current design, or it could be a roundabout. I'm not sure what their solution will be. They haven't identified a plan yet, but any changes at that intersection, does that change how you're looking at this design or this project in any way?
I would say, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'd have to consult with our traffic engineer on the project, but I would say initially the thought is that no, it would not, in that under the current circumstances, DOT has outlined that they do not feel it would have a significant impact or that mitigation is required. So,
well, DOT is saying that it's fine now. Under the current conditions, obviously it's only going to become better. as far as traffic flow in that area. So I guess, yeah, there wouldn't be a degradation from where you are now under the current conditions as opposed to looking into the future. Just real quick, up top, so in that R1 area where you identify single-family homes, it looks like that is the only part of this project that is anywhere near an existing residential area, right?
Correct.
Now, from the furthest eastern point of that colored area to the homes on Arnold Drive in that area, how far is that? I mean, I know there's a big ravine there where the Dwaskill is and everything else, but how far?
I would say it's roughly 400 or 500 feet, something in that range.
So that area to the east of the colored area, the green colored area, that would basically stay untouched. Is that correct?
Right, yes. This is where the backs of the units are proposed, from the backs of the units to approximately the back of any unit on Arnold Drive would be about 600 feet.
Okay. Now, if you take the total amount of acreage that is made up of these parcels that you identified in its current state, and subtracted what is proposed to be developed, what's that ratio? So basically, what I'm asking you is how much of the total property combined between all the parcels is going to be disturbed?
I don't have a number for you on the exact disturbed area, but as far as green space, we do have a number for that. We're relevant 19.3 acres of green space, so an area that is not impervious by roadway or rooftop or sidewalk or anything of that nature. I can get you a 19.3 acres, or approximately 69% of the 27-acre parcel.
69% will not be
Correct.
impervious.
Correct. I can come up with a number for.
Yeah, I'm just interested, how much of the 27 acres will be disturbed at all. I mean, obviously, the outskirts of the proposal as it's designed is not touched, but I'd like to know how much of that total 27-acre area will be disturbed, basically. Now, John, tell us a little bit about what the planning board talked about when they presented their positive recommendation.
Yes, some of the things that the planning board talked about relative to the recommendation was the residential to help support the commercial retail to the south for the plaza that was just redeveloped with Market 32. There's also a plaza to the southwest to this that could use some reinvestment in the near future, and it's a great opportunity for redevelopment of commercial and retail. And with the proper pedestrian amenities through DOT's project, there's a great opportunity to create that foot traffic for residents, especially potentially an older population that would have the ability to walk to drugstores, banks, and supermarkets conveniently from where they live. In addition to that, Scott mentioned that they're doing geotechnical field investigations. Part of that was some concerns with the steep slopes down towards the Dwaskill. Again, it's engineering analysis. They're doing their due diligence. They have a geotechnical expert on site to ensure that the homes, as currently shown in a concept plan, can be engineered to a preliminary and potential final design with the current configuration. The board was to approve the PDD. It does not bind the planning board's hands to potentially alter the number of units or the siting of the homes relative to the steep slopes if through the geotechnical analysis a need arises that's brought to light to shift some of the units. In addition to that, the full access to the south was discussed because as DOT goes through its design alternatives, if one of those designs ends up being a roundabout, the concern for that southernmost emergency access entrance of having left outs and left in would basically be eliminated through the roundabout, so it would be right in and right out, and anybody looking to head east would take the right out through a roundabout and come back in the opposite direction. So the board felt that, the planning board felt that from a recommendation standpoint, even if it's developed as an emergency access, at this point, develop it with the full standards to allow the potential for that roadway to become full access for right in and right out if a roundabout design ends up being a preferred alternative. There's another design option that's preferred alternative, and it's a full intersection. It may be problematic, and in that case, you know, the existing configuration may be appropriate, but the board wanted to leave the ability to do that. The other thing, you know, similar to DOT, the planning board discussed about potentially shifting the 146A access as far north as possible to get it away from the intersection. You know, part of it though is encumbered with, I believe, a wetland water body that's adjacent to the firehouse. So again, trying to be sensitive to the natural environment that's currently there. The applicant did a good job of minimizing those impacts, and you know, if we can slip it up slightly with being under the thresholds for a general DEC Army Corps permit, you know, it's worth exploring at this point.
Was your impression of DOT's analysis of the traffic study the same as Mr. Lansing's?
It was, most notably, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the commercial would have generated close to 400 trips in peak hour, if not 400 plus, and this was about a quarter of that. So it was substantially less traffic during the peak hour, the PM peak especially, with the residential than would have been permitted under the existing zoning. And the prior project, while permitted by code, would have required certain traffic mitigations based on the thresholds that are being met. I did confirm with DOT that this project has been written into the sensitivity analysis as they go for the improvements to the intersection, so they're aware of this and they're taking the projected rates into account. And they also look at, what's interesting with DOT is when they touch an intersection, they don't want to have to come back because they're dealing with a statewide network for at least 15 to 20 years. So they use a 20-year horizon. So they're looking at anticipated growth over the next 20 years. So we have the snapshot of what's here today, the projects like this that we know are potentially in the works, but then there's also 1.5% background growth that's projected out for 20 years for projects that aren't here yet, but we know will be coming, and as communities around us also grow, and knowing that this is a state highway to a federal interstate, it's a corridor that people use, so they did take that sensitivity analysis into consideration.
Yeah, and that's part of the discussion we've had with DOT for a few years now. This, you know, what you see in 146, 146A is a regional traffic issue. There's a tremendous amount of commuter traffic that comes through Clifton Park on those two roadways, and you see it heading east in the morning and west in the afternoon, and it's rather heavy. So it's definitely a heavy commuter route. So yes, they do need to take into account not only projects like this one, but growth in our surrounding communities as well. Okay, thank you, John. A couple other things I want to ask, and then anything that the board wants to ask as well. You know, keep hearing the term condos. You know, that's a term everybody's using, condos, but they look like townhouses. It's a townhouse design.
It is, correct.
With a garage.
Correct.
So why do you call them condos?
Condominiums because the ownership, there would not be individual lots associated with each one of the units themselves. Townhouses are typically, that section of the building has a lot associated with that particular building. We're in a condominium project. Basically, if there were 100 units, all 100 owners would own 1/100th of the overall property and be responsible for maintenance of that property in the 1%.
But it's also, I mean, you've got to go through a whole separate process and approval through New York State, and so why wouldn't you propose, standard townhouses, nice, like the Vistas, for instance, where, very nice, upscale type townhome.
That is what the applicant is proposing. That's something that he feels that there's a market need for that type of unit in the community. It's something different that we feel is needed in the community.
Well, if it's an association that is responsible for the maintenance of the roads, like you said, it's a maintenance-free community, responsible for, cutting the grass, other yard maintenance, care of the roads, and everything else you mentioned, that's fine. I was just curious why it would be a condo association as opposed to a townhouse or with an HOA, for instance.
Another part of it is with townhouses, you have a right-of-way associated with the thoroughfare. You have the individual lots, you have setbacks associated with those. The condominium option gives us flexibility in that now we can have the roadways, the streetscape, the sidewalks, the street trees, the street lights, all owned, operated, maintained by one entity. There's no crossover on which aspects are dedicated to the town, which aspects are maintained by the town. So it's a more contiguous type of environment and provides us flexibility to do what we like to do.
Well, and I'm sure I'm sure you follow, well, you're probably in front of the planning board once in a while, but you probably follow how the town operates. We have approved very, very few PDDs or PUDs over the years. I've been here 18 plus years and count on one hand PUDs that we've approved. One thing that we do look for in this case a residential PDD that requires town board approval is something that's unique, something that would be new to the town, a residential housing that represents a segment of housing that is lacking in the town. So those would be some of the thresholds that we would look for when considering approval of a PDD of residential nature. So I would say from that standpoint, it is different, it is unique, and it is a housing stock that is lacking in town. And I do hear about it quite often, that this type of housing for empty nesters particularly is lacking. And that's basically going to be your demographic.
Correct.
Yeah. Are there any age restrictions proposed? So in other words, because we did approve condos at Exit 9 years ago, but that's, I think, what people picture as condominiums, multi-family building, multi-family units over by the YMCA, the Bentley. Those are condos, and there was an age restriction in there, but you're not proposing one here?
There's no age restriction proposed for the
Do you believe that due to the amenities and the style of the neighborhood and the amenities such as, I guess, maintenance-free, the condo association, things of that nature, that it would basically be something that the empty nester demographic would gravitate toward?
I believe that. I also believe that it would be something that would be attractive to young professionals. I don't necessarily see families locating in a project like this. I think they would probably go more towards a conventional single-family home, but I think the target market are young professionals, retirees, empty nesters, things of that nature.
Okay. So you think both of those demographics will?
I think so, yes.
What would be the appeal for young professionals?
In my opinion, it would be a young professional, somebody on the go, doesn't want to take care of a driveway, doesn't want to mow a lawn, doesn't want to worry about the grounds. Yet wants an attractive neighborhood with a streetscape, connectivity to commercial areas, things of that nature.
Sounds pretty good for old professionals, too.
Yeah.
Especially come the fall. Okay. So, John, what you're saying as far as that southern access, you're saying build it as if it's open and used on a daily basis, but there would still be discussion at the planning board level as far as whether it will be open day one or could evolve into that, right?
Correct. Have the flexibility that if improvements are made to the 146, 146A intersection, to have that potentially become full access and build it as such. However, it could be gated in the interim based on the current configurations of the intersection.
John, could it be gated and for residents only with a pass to go through?
Possibly, but the only concern there is the lefts out and lefts in across that intersection would be very problematic in the current
No, I know that, but I'm
configuration.
saying if it were to be used, could it be just gated and then have a pass? In other words, it'd be for residents only, so it wouldn't become a cut-through of some sort.
Possibly, yeah.
I know you see that in the South a lot, where you go into the community, you might have a main entrance like you would here,
Sure.
but then it'd be a back entrance, would be for residents only to go in and out of it, but they'd need some type of pass on their car to raise the gate to get in and out.
Yep.
Just another question, I know you talked about getting foot traffic to the mall, what about getting foot traffic past the firehouse to the intersection across the street to the sidewalk on the west
As
side?
far as
the north
with
side.
the existing trail on the west side,
Yeah,
that's something that, the planning board recommended that, if the project goes forward, we'd look at all the pedestrian connectivity options with the applicant.
One thing in our discussions with DOT about the improvements that are upcoming on the intersection is whatever their final decision is on a design, that it include safe pedestrian access. That we foresee in that entire area, both relating to this project and the new intersection that will evolve next year, that there will be substantial improvement regarding the pedestrian access in that direct area. I think what you're saying, John, that it's a good idea to wait and see what that final design is at the intersection before any decisions are made on that southern entrance?
Correct,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I think that's smart. I also want to point out that the planning board, if the town board does approve of the project conceptually, the applicant has to then go through a full planning board analysis and process, which also involves our other agencies such as DOT that was mentioned, Department of Health, and all the other state agencies, Army Corps of Engineers, DEC. Are there any DEC wetlands? Just Army Corps? Okay. So the Army Corps of Engineers would be involved, so there would be a full planning process that would follow. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Standard? Mr. Romano? Okay. Just a couple more. Public benefit. Typically with PDDs there would be a public benefit. Do you have anything to offer along those lines tonight?
As far as the project itself, we do feel that the project itself has an inherent public benefit in that the existing zoning, the B3 zoning, as was demonstrated on prior applications as far as traffic impacts, general reception by the public and the planning board was not positive. So we feel that the project itself provides appropriate transitions from the commercial corridor to single-family residential corridor. Beyond that, it is my understanding the applicant has been in coordination with the town on some conceptual ideas for public benefits. I don't know specifically what those are, and that's something that is a work in progress, and I'm certain that the applicant will continue those discussions and formalize something.
Do we have anything definitive on that, John?
Not at this point. Just looking at the lots, though, we do have the standard parkland fee that would apply, which is $1,250
Yeah,
per
that's
new
a standard
subdivided
fee.
lot.
And how much a lot?
$1,250.
That's a standard fee that every,
New
project
subdivided lot would pay, and that can go for townwide park improvements. In addition to that, I'd say the other thing is with the HOA potentially maintaining the roads and sidewalks as part of their fiscal responsibilities and maintenance responsibilities going forward, and writing it in the HOA plan that it's not to be dedicated to the town now or in the future. It provides some protections, and I think we would work well with the applicant in developing a SWIP that clearly outlines a routine maintenance schedule too, if not periodic inspections by qualified inspector like Lansing engineers that can come in and offer the guidance to the HOA as to what type of maintenance responsibilities may be required towards the stormwater.
could you just identify quickly where the sidewalks are located? Does it follow all of the roadways, or?
It does, it follows
Oh,
all
okay.
the roadways, both sides of the roadways for.
Both sides.
For the majority of the project, there is one section where we do not have a sidewalk connecting, but we're proposing sidewalks on both sides.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, that's, again, something very unique to Clifton Park, no doubt. Very good. Any idea on average price? Not for the individual residences, but for the townhouses?
I do not have a specific number on that. I
No.
have to check with the applicant on that, I can get back to you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate knowing what, the average, I mean, if you have a target price for each type of unit, that'd be great. If you have an average,
Sure.
that would be fine. I don't know how far along you might be in the financial analysis of what the price points might be, but I know that's tough to do until it's approved, but appreciate knowing that as well.
I do know the applicant is targeting higher amenities, so I assume the product will be a higher end, unit, higher price unit.
Well, I know, like I said, we've heard from many people that housing for empty nesters is lacking in the town, and I agree with them. And when you see new developments that cater to the empty nester community, they sell very quickly and for a premium. We saw that with the Vistas on the opposite side of 146A intersection. Those were very nice townhomes and sold very quickly. And when those opportunities come up for resale around town, they sell very quickly and at a premium. So there's no doubt that there's a pent-up demand, I would call it, for this type of housing. I don't think the applicant would have any problem selling these units quickly. Now, would the roads be constructed to town standards? I know the town will not be maintaining them, but what do you foresee there?
They would, at a minimum, be constructed to fire code standards, obviously, to meet all the New York State fire codes. Beyond that, there's something we can work with the planning board and the highway department. Obviously, they're not proposed to be dedicated to the town, so I feel there's some flexibility on that, but we'll work with the planning department.
Wouldn't add to our yard waste program because it's maintenance free, so there wouldn't be any yard waste. All right. All right. John, did you have any questions? Or Dan,
No
do you have any questions on the?
Not having public roads and water, stormwater is used to manage, that's great.
Very good. Jim?
All set.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If you could get back to us with those answers as soon as you could, and we'll make a decision here in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, but the quicker you can get me that information, the better. And also, if you could, public benefit as well.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. We do have resolutions for consideration this evening. Lisa, if you could read through those, and we'll consider each one individually.
A resolution changing the town's job title from senior van driver to chauffeur per Saratoga County Human Resources Office. Whereas the Saratoga County Department of Human Resources has asked the town to change the internal designation for the operators of the town's senior van service, and whereas the town currently designates full-time operators Betty Bolton, Rebecca Mara, and part-time drivers Sheila Abra, Joseph McCormick, William Tierney, and Robert Grundy as senior van drivers. Now therefore be it resolved as that all employees currently designated as senior van drivers are hereby designated as chauffeur, consistent with New York State Civil Service designations, and be it further resolved that titles within the town for the position be redesignated as chauffeur for future hires. A resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2018 Ford F-150 pickup from Commodity Ford Incorporated, Greenwich, New York, for use by the Sewer Department, whereas Collection Systems Manager Michael O'Brien has identified a need for a new vehicle for use by the Sewer Department, and whereas Mr. O'Brien has recommended that a 2018 Ford F-150 pickup truck available from Commodity Ford Incorporated, New York, be purchased under New York State contract at a cost of $32,264.98. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clifton Park Town Board hereby authorizes the purchase of a 2018 Ford F-150 pickup from Commodity Ford from Greenwich, New York, as designated in the attached documents at a cost not to exceed $32,264.98 under state contract, to be paid through a municipal lease. A resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2018 Chevy 250 HD pickup from Van Bordel Chevrolet and Messina.
What's that?
Macedon, New York, for use by
In
the
your Brockport.
transfer station. Whereas Jeffrey Gutter, transfer station
All those
supervisor, has
towns.
identified a need for a new vehicle for use by the transfer station, and whereas Mr. Gutter has recommended that a 2018 Chevy 2500 HD pickup truck available from Van Bordel Chevrolet, Macedon, New York, be purchased under New York State mini bid 22,898 at a cost of $34,974.72. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clifton Park Town Board hereby authorizes the purchase of a 2018 Chevy 2500 HD pickup from Van Bordel Chevrolet, Main Street, Macedon, New York, as described in the attached documents at a cost not to exceed $34,974.72 under a mini bid to be paid through a municipal lease. A resolution extending the hours of the convenience transfer station for the annual spring greenup week, whereas a request has been made by Jeffrey Gutter, transfer station supervisor, for authorization to extend the hours of the convenience transfer station for the annual spring greenup week to include Sundays, April 22nd and April 29th, and whereas authorization for overtime costs for the extended hours is required, now therefore be it resolved that the transfer station supervisor is hereby authorized to extend the hours of the convenience transfer station for the annual spring greenup week to include Sundays, April 22nd and April 29th, with the extended hours to be as set forth in the attached Schedule A, and be it further resolved that the Sunday hours will be for the collection of leaves and brush only, while all other items will be taken during the regular hours from Tuesday through Saturday, and authorization is further granted for the overtime requirements to be paid as budgeted from the general fund convenience transfer station overtime. A resolution referring a density increase request on the Route 146A subdivision application by 146A Holdings LLC to the Planning Board for further review, whereas a project narrative, requested incentive, and proposed amenity, subdivision calculation, site location map, constrained and unconstrained plan, and proposed layout were submitted to the Town Board on February 2nd, 2018 by 146A Holdings LLC in accordance with Section 208.43 10 of the town code, and whereas the applicant is requesting a density increase for the subdivision in accordance with section 208-43.13A of the town code, and whereas the town board has determined that the project should be reviewed by the planning board for its non-binding advisory opinion pursuant to section 208-43.16D of the town code. Now therefore be it resolved that the application for the density increase associated with open space incentive zoning as outlined in section 208-43.10 of the town code is referred to the town's planning board for an advisory opinion consistent with that chapter, and be it resolved that the town board will reserve any further determinations on the application pending receipt of the planning board's opinions and recommendations. A resolution authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Half Moon for local match commitment for Century Road improvements and traffic signal upgrades. Whereas a resolution number 176 of 2017, the town board created a capital project budget for the improvements for the Sitterly and Wooden Roads intersection project. And whereas the town board wishes to establish an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Half Moon to reflect shared local match costs associated with the Sitterly Road traffic improvements and signal upgrade project per funding agreement with New York State DOT. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached intermunicipal agreement with the town of Half Moon. A resolution supporting the Adirondack Aquatic Center, whereas the Adirondack Aquatic Center AAC, a 501c3 corporation formed in 2014, envisions an aquatic center with a location at the heart of Saratoga County near the I-87 exit 12 interchange, providing convenient access to residents of Saratoga County. And whereas the town board of the town of Clifton Park recognizes that aquatic sports and pool activities are enjoyed by people of all ages and abilities on a year-round basis, and whereas activities envisioned by AAC include learning to swim, aquatic exercises, aquatic therapy, and aquatic competition. And whereas the town of Clifton Park finds that the addition of this new recreational opportunity enriches the county and the region. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Clifton Park fully supports the Adirondack Aquatic Center in its endeavors. A resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a lease agreement with Key Government Financing Incorporated for leasing of general fund and highway fund vehicles. Whereas numerous departments have requested that new vehicles be acquired for use by those departments, and whereas the town board wishes to accomplish the acquisitions of vehicles for use by various departments, as well as upcoming acquisitions by the highway department with cost-effective municipal financing, and whereas the comptroller's office received responses to a request for quotes to local banks for financing rates through a master lease for municipal vehicles, and whereas Key Bank submitted the lowest financing rate proposal, and whereas the town board determines that financing recently approved acquisitions of vehicles for municipal use is best accomplished through a master lease agreement with Key Government Financing Incorporated at competitive lease financing rates. Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to enter into a lease agreement with Key Government Financing Incorporated for the lease purchase of new vehicles throughout town for 5 years at a cost not to exceed $1,066,700 or $232,121.35 per year to be paid starting in 2019. A resolution authorizing the hiring of summer staff for the Parks and Recreation Department, whereas an additional staff member is required to staff the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs during the summer months, and whereas Mila Kramer, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, has recommended that Mackenzie Woods, 26 Garrison Lane, Holston Lake be hired as a summer office staff member. Now therefore be it resolved that the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs is hereby authorized to hire Mackenzie Woods as a member of the summer office staff effective March 12, 2018 through August 3, 2018 at a grade 1, step 2, $15.22 per hour to be paid from Parks and Recreation Administration. A resolution authorizing the hiring of camp site directors for the full day camp and 4 half-day camps in the preschool camp for the 2018 season. Whereas the town board wishes that staff be hired for the Department of Parks and Recreation to operate the Town of Clifton Park 2018 summer recreation programs, and whereas Mila Kramer, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, has recommended that the individuals listed in Schedule A attached here to be hired for such purposes. Now therefore be it resolved that the campsite directors listed in Schedule A attached hereto shall be hired to staff the town of Clifton Park summer recreation programs, and be it further resolved that all hires are effective with start dates and ending dates as per Schedule A. A resolution authorizing the hiring of Adventure Challenge facilitators and assistants per Schedule A, whereas the town board wishes to hire Adventure Challenge staff to conduct the 2018 Project Adventure program within the Department of Parks and Recreation. And now therefore be it resolved that the individuals on the attached Schedule A are appointed to said positions effective April 1st, 2018 through October 31st, 2018 at the salary amounts listed in Schedule A to be paid from facilitator and assistant. A resolution hiring returning golf course supervisor in attendance for the Barney Road Golf Course for the 2018 season, whereas the town board wishes to hire seasonal staff for the upcoming season at the Barney Road Golf Course, and whereas Mila Kramer, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, has recommended that the individuals listed in the attached Schedule A be rehired to fill the positions. Now therefore be it resolved that authorization is hereby given to hire the individuals listed on the attached Schedule A as staff for the Barney Road Golf Course effective April 1st, 2018 through November 18th, 2018 at a salary as indicated on Schedule A. A resolution hiring Amy Price as a coordinator for the CPR grant and as an instructor for Advanced American Red Cross training for summer recreation staff. Whereas each year the town of Clifton Park receives a CPR grant from the New York State Office of Children and Family Services, the Saratoga County Youth Bureau, to hire a coordinator for the CPR grant and as an instructor for Advanced and Basic American Red Cross training for summer recreation staff. And whereas Mila Kramer, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Affairs, has recommended that Amy Price, 902 Solomon Avenue, Clifton Park, be hired as a coordinator for the CPR grant and as an instructor for Advanced and Basic American Red Cross training for summer recreation staff. Now therefore be it resolved that authorization is hereby granted to hire Amy Price, Clifton Park, as the coordinator for the CPR grant and an instructor for Advanced and Basic American Red Cross training for summer recreation staff to be paid at grade 5, step 6, $25.40 per hour, effective immediately through December 31st, 2018, to be paid from Summer Recreation Training Conference and Community Programs Junior CPR grant expense. A resolution authorizing alcoholic beverages to be served at a gathering to be held at Collins Park Pavilion on June 24th, 2018, whereas Kendra McHale, 10 Colonial Court, Boston Lake, is hosting a gathering on June 24th, 2018 from 12 noon to 5 p.m. and whereas a request has been received for permission to serve alcohol in the form of beer and wine at the event. Now therefore be it resolved that Kendra McHale is hereby authorized to serve beer and wine at a gathering at Collins Park Pavilion on June 24th, 2018 from noon to 5 p.m. consistent with the terms of the permit application received in the Office of Parks and Recreation. A resolution authorizing the promotion of Terrence Moore and Andrew Jerome, currently MEOs in the Highway Department, whereas Highway Superintendent Dan Bull has expressed a need for a welder, fabricator, and an automotive mechanic in the Highway Department. And whereas Mr. Bull recommends that Terrence Moore be promoted from MEO to welder, fabricator in the Highway Department, and whereas Mr. Bull also recommends that Andrew Jerome be promoted from MEO to automotive mechanic, and whereas the above referenced employees have met the requirements for these positions, now therefore be it resolved that Terrence Moore, 37 Riverside Drive, Rotterdam Junction, is hereby upgraded to welder fabricator, grade 6, step 4, $26.13 per hour, effective immediately, $1,359 estimated additional compensation, and be it further resolved that Andrew Jerome, 1417 Crescent Road, Rexford, is hereby upgraded to automotive mechanic, grade 6, step 3, $25.38 per hour, effective immediately, $1,393 estimated additional compensation, and be it further resolved that the additional salary increase be paid with a transfer of $2,752 from DA 5142E0876, the amounts of $348 to DA 5142E522 and $1,011 to DA 5142 10E522, both for Terrence Moore and $356 to DA 5142E707 and $1,037 to DA 5110E707, both for Andrew Jerome. A resolution authorizing the Southern Saratoga YMCA to use town roadways for their 24th annual Anyone Can Try Triathlon, whereas the Southern Saratoga County YMCA has requested to use the town of Clifton Park roadways as specified in the attached here too for the purpose of holding their 24th annual Anyone Can Try Triathlon on Sundays, May 6, 2018 from 7:45 a.m. until the last participant arrives back at the YMCA, and whereas the event has the approval of the town's highway superintendent, now therefore be a resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the YMCA to use town roadways as specified in the attached here to May 6, 2018 at 7:45 a.m. for the purpose of holding the 24th annual Anyone Can Try Triathlon, and be it further resolved that this approval is expressly conditioned upon receipt prior to May 6, 2018 in the office of the highway superintendent of an insurance certificate in the amount of $1 million, naming the town of Clifton Park as an additional insured, and be it further resolved that this approval is expressly conditioned upon the roads not being closed, but members of the YMCA are permitted to temporarily stop traffic at each end of the course in the event both a vehicle and a race participant arrive at the same time. A resolution authorizing the comptroller to transfer funds from the unappropriated fund balance for payment to purchase real property from the Shenandoah Central School District, whereas by resolution number 243 of 2017, the town board authorized the execution of a land purchase contract for the acquisition of a 37.2 plus acre parcel of land in the Exit 9 area from the Shenandoah Central School District, subject to public referendum, and whereas following the positive outcome of the referendum on December 5th, 2017, the town completed certain items of due diligence pursuant to the land purchase contract, and whereas following completion of title search and related items, the town closed on the property at the district offices of the Shenandoah Central School District on February 28, 2018, and whereas a deposit of $25,000 was placed in escrow per resolution number 243 of 2017, and whereas the total purchase price was set at $1,100,000 plus related administrative and filing fees, now therefore be it resolved that the comptroller is authorized to transfer $1,083,300 to other town payments, equipment, retroactive to February 28, 2018, to complete the purchase of 32.2 plus acres of land from the Shenandoah Central School District. A resolution accepting a proposal to complete a full residential curbside bulk trash pickup for all residents within the town of Clifton Park, whereas a request for proposals was published in the Schenectady Gazette and posted on www.cliftonpark.org website, requesting price quotes to perform a full residential curbside bulk trash pickup for town residents, and whereas a request for proposals was also forwarded to vendors in the market for trash hauling services. And whereas on March 2nd, 2018, the town received a proposal from County Waste, Clifton Park, New York, for an estimated total cost of $108,000, which is in conformance with the request for proposal due March 2nd, 2018. And whereas no other vendors submitted a proposal in response to the request for proposal, and whereas the town board has allocated sufficient funds for bulk waste pickup in general fund transfer station bulk pickup, now therefore be it resolved that the town board accepts a proposal from County Waste for an estimated amount of $108,000 to complete a full residential curbside bulk pickup, waste pickup by May 12, 2018 for all residents within the town of Clifton Park to be paid from general fund transfer station bulk pickup.
Very good. Any questions on the resolution? All right, Teresa, if you would read through the headings, and we'll consider each resolution individually.
Resolution number 48 of 2018, a resolution changing the town's job title from senior van driver to chauffeur for Saratoga County Human Resources Office. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. The county is going through an audit of all the municipalities and job titles, so on and so forth, and apparently our senior van drivers should actually be under the designation of chauffeur. So, who knows why, but that's the way it's supposed to be, so we'll make the change. But we're still gonna call them senior van drivers. I don't know if we should be calling them chauffeurs. Okay, go ahead.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 49 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2018 Ford F-150 pickup from Commodity Ford Incorporated, Greenwich, New York, for use by the sewer department.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. Mike?
We're replacing the 2005 Chevy pickup. It's serviced very well. It's actually the first vehicle the sewer department owned.
Oh, that
That's
brings
right.
back memories.
That's right. This new truck, it won't have a plow on it, but it will have a diesel fuel transfer pump on it, which we use to fill all the town generators, and it's just upgrading the old. So
How many miles you get on?
on the Chevy,
The old one, 2005. Huh?
105.
Oh,
It's rusted
God,
out.
you got another 100 left in it.
And we'll put it out.
What are you gonna do with it?
We'll auction it unless we want to use it as a salter.
Oh, Dan might be able to use it. By Clemens.
Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, or both. Or both. Yeah.
It's
We
functional.
repurpose all the
It's
vehicles.
functional. It's yes. So no, it's
Instead of buying a new car for the employees, we have a old security vehicle with 150,000 miles on it.
I have
Who's
the
that?
Sewer Express.
Yeah, there you go. The ultimate in repurposing. We took a senior van driven by our chauffeurs, took a senior van and made it into a sewer truck. I mean, that was, for
we
what you
love it.
spent to
It's
do that,
perfect.
$1,500?
Yeah.
Boom,
yeah,
sewer truck.
Done.
Perfect. Now it says Sewer Express. All right, Teresa.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes. The next thing we're going to look at too, I want to look at is selling advertising on the senior vans. Yeah. I think that would be a good thing to look at. Not on the sewer van.
We're open to it.
Yeah, that's true. If we can get a sewer company to.
We have enough.
Blazing their
we have
name
enough
on the
people ask
Sewer
us
Express.
questions
Yeah.
when we're out there.
All right, go ahead, Teresa.
Resolution number 50 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2018 Chevy 2500 HD pickup from Van Bortle Chevrolet Macedon,
Macedon.
New York,
You're
used by the transfer station.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. Jeffrey?
Yeah, it's the same predicament we're in. It's a replacement 2004 Chevy pickup. It served us well, you know, we followed with it. It's been banged up a little bit, the exhaust is leaking on it, the manifold. It's time to replace it.
Oh, yeah? How many miles you get on it?
About 76,000 of hard plowing miles.
76,000.
That's just plowing, that's mainly
Barely
plowing.
broken in.
Well, that's hard plowing, so.
Hard miles. All right. Fair enough. Okay, Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 51 of 2018, a resolution extending the hours of the convenience transfer station for the annual spring cleanup week.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. Jeffrey?
Yes, it's getting close to spring, and it's hard to believe with the storm coming, but spring will be here shortly, and we want to be prepared for it.
Yeah, so this is something we do every year. We do have a yard waste program, thanks to County Waste, where they pick up everybody's yard waste free of charge. The town is not charged for that service, nor are the residents. But a lot of people do like to bring their yard waste to the transfer station themselves, and we certainly like to give them that opportunity. So we extend the hours in the spring and in the fall to afford people more opportunity to get to the transfer station in a timely manner. So this year, April 22nd and 29th, we will have extended hours for yard waste only. You can't bring your garbage during that time. Okay? Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 52 of 2018, a resolution referring a density increase request on the Route 146A subdivision application by 146A Holdings LLC to the planning board for further review. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 53 of 2018, a resolution authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Half Moon for local match commitment for Sitterly Road improvements and traffic signal upgrades.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. We continue to move this project forward as well, working with DOT and the town of Half Moon jointly. We will have major improvements to the Sitterly Road corridor, including the intersection with Wooden Road.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 54 of 2018, a resolution supporting the Adirondack Aquatic Center.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. This was a request that came from my colleague in the town of Malta, and they're trying to show and identify support in this area for the Adirondack Aquatic Center. And this is a project that's been under discussion for a few years now. And I believe, and I think the board shares the belief, that if this project does occur, it would be a major asset to the entire capital region. So I think it would be a great project, and so we're passing this. What I need to do is get the proof of support to my colleague in Malta. So if you could give me a nice clean resolution, please, with our vote results here. Thank you.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 55 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign a lease agreement with Key Government Financing Incorporated for leasing of general fund and highway fund vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. What we're doing this year, a little different. We're grouping all of the vehicle purchases together, and even looking ahead, not only this year, but into next year, and locking in a 5-year fixed rate on a government lease. We want to do this now before the rates go higher. I think it's fair to say that as the economy has improved and likely will continue to improve, when watching the different municipal bonding rates and the 10-year bond, 30-year bond, everything in the financial markets that you can follow, those rates are creeping up and will trend higher. So now is the time to lock in a very attractive rate. I asked Mark to go into the market and get some competitive responses, and KeyBank was the lowest, correct?
Yes, they were. I inquired with five of our banks that we typically deal with. I got responses for 2. KeyBank was at 2.88%, and I got one other bid, which was a little bit higher.
Now, a municipal lease is not the same as or this type of lease. I mean, there's municipal, there's also commercial leases that are the same structure. But it's not like you might think of leasing a car personally. With these types of leases, you have a fixed rate, in this case 5 years. So the rate is fixed over the term of the loan, and at the end of the term of the loan, or when you pay it off, because you can pay it early without penalty, you own the vehicle for $1. Okay, so it's not like a personal vehicle lease where you might lease it for 3 or 5 years, make your payments over that time, and then you turn it back in. So we'll own all of this equipment, vehicles, at the end of the 5-year term. I would think we'll pay it earlier than that, but these leases offer the greatest amount of flexibility for organizations, commercial and municipal, when purchasing and financing equipment and vehicles. So Good timing on this. Any questions, comments? Okay, Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 56 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the hiring of summer staff for the Parks and Recreation Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. Several years ago, there was a position that was eliminated in the Parks Department. We do hire somebody on a full-time but part-time basis from late March, April timeframe into August during the busiest months of the Parks and Rec Department. In this case, we have somebody that is returning, that was with us a couple of years ago, right? Was she here for 1 year or two? She was here 2 years, wasn't she?
She was in our office 1 year, but she was
Oh.
with us several years as a counselor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So she has worked for the town for a number of years,
Right.
and we're very excited and feel very lucky to have her back.
Yeah, she was very good.
Yes.
Good town resident. She did a great job in the office before, so we were very pleased when she called and wanted to return. That's great. Okay, Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 57 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the hiring of campsite directors for the full-day camp, the 4 half-day camps, and the preschool camp for 2018 season.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. So, spring can't be too far away, right?
It's not, and just to let you know, with our full-day camp registrations, we have over 100 kids already registered.
Wow.
So it's been moving along pretty quickly
Mm.
since the beginning of February.
Good. Good, good. Yep, so if you do want to sign your kid up for the full-day camp, it's increasingly popular now in its, what are we, 14? 15? So,
2004 was the first
it's
year.
increasingly popular, so sign up now if you're interested. Okay, discussion? Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 58 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the hiring of New Venture Challenge facilitators and assistants for Schedule A.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. So we have some people returning along with some new folks as well, right?
Yeah, Andrea Tuttle had worked for us for quite a while ago, and she's coming back. And Nolan Yell is new. He's not new to the course, but he's new as an employee. He, for many, many years, actually did the camps that we have available during the summer, and he's going to be an assistant at our summer camps this year.
Mm. And Larry's back, which is good.
Larry's back.
You're good. Okay. Any comments? Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 59 of 2018, a resolution hiring returning golf course supervisor and attendants for the Barney Road Golf Course for the 2018 season.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard. All set for the season.
Yeah, we're getting ready. Everything is definitely gearing up for all the facilities, all of the camps and programs, and staff are eager to get their paperwork in.
Mm. Very good. Well, hopefully this will be the last of the snow coming up and we can get the course open in a good day. Yes, sir. Any comments, discussion? Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 60 of 2018, a resolution hiring Amy Price as a coordinator for the CPR grant and as an instructor for advanced American Red Cross training for summer recreation staff.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano, and Amy's always done a great job for us, and we welcome her back. Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 61 of 2018, a resolution authorizing alcoholic beverages to be served at a gathering to be held at Collins Park Pavilion on June 24th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standard.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 62 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the promotion of Terrence Moore and Andrew Jerome, currently MEOs in the Highway Department.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. Andy Jerome is here. Welcome. Congratulations. If they vote yes. We'll see. So, Mr. Bowl, tell us about these two promotions for these two young men.
Yeah, absolutely. In the highway department, we're always looking for talents within the department that people have that can be used at work. Andy and Terry are both individuals who I reached out to see if they would be willing to help outside of their MEO distinctions, and both of them jumped in head first. Andy has been working in our mechanics bay for 2.5 months now, and he has, prior to this, he has a lot of experience in the town of Half Moon. He did some of the mechanical work over there, and his peers and supervisors have said that he's been doing a fantastic job. So we like to make sure that when we're looking to expand our repertoire of talented individuals, we like to look inside. So Andy is the individual we went with. Terry was a welder in a previous position and has been welding outside of work. We asked him to help us with repairing some plows and doing some work throughout town, actually.
Yeah.
Doing work at the pools and for town hall.
Done a good job,
He's
too.
done a very nice job.
Yeah.
Welding is not something that we're going to run out of. So we're going to continue needing a welder and fabricator. So it was nice to look inside and be able to promote from within.
Now, he's also able to put together some of the structures that we need for the stormwater.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
So-
saves us money too, right?
Right. When we pave, we'll bring the road surface up a little higher, and a lot of the catch basins need what are called risers. Risers are prefabricated in foundries across the country. Some go for anywhere as low as $300. Some go as high as $800. Terry has figured out how to make a jig, put them together, and put 2 or 3 together in a day for less than $100 for material. So saving us a lot of money.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Oh, that's good. Yeah, and he had Dan Clemens said he's done a real nice job doing some welding around different town entities, including town hall and pools, as you mentioned, and that's very good. Andy came over from the town of Half Moon and done a great job. So how long has it been now?
August 2016 I started.
Wow. Coming up on 2 years already. Coming up on 2 years already. Wow, time flies. Well, we're glad to have you. So, very good. Any questions for Dan? Comments?
I just want to mention one more
Oh,
thing.
yes.
The town board, Andy's also taken initiative and is spearheading a lot of our trainings and safety aspects of work. So very happy he's doing that, and he's a good person to work with.
I should also note that today was Kieran Lynch's first day in Buildings and Grounds, so that has created some additional opportunity in highways, so that's good. Okay. Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 63 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the Southern Saratoga YMCA to use town roadways for their 24th annual Anyone Can Try triathlon.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. So anybody that wants to try a triathlon, they can certainly do that at the Y. Any concerns with their proposed route?
Nope, 24th annual, they're getting really good at this, and they've got over 75 volunteers that are going to be helping with them. They've reached out to the County Sheriff's Department to help as well. But a lot of the volunteers that are helping are not only members of the YMCA, but they're members of local groups that do these types of activities. So they're donating their time and their efforts to make this a great event.
Good. Good. Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 64 of 2018, a resolution authorizing the comptroller to transfer funds from the unappropriated fund balance for payment to purchase real property from the Shenandoah Central School.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standart, and last week, the town closed on the property. We purchased 37 plus acres from the Shenendehowa School District. It was a long process with a lot of twists and turns, subject to 2 referendums, all obviously covered closely by many residents and the press, so it was definitely a high-profile process. But the question of future ownership of the parcel has been decided, with the closing occurring last week. Now it's a matter of planning for the future of the parcel, and that's the next step of the process that we will initiate very soon. So that's where we are there. Any comments at this point? Okay. Teresa?
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 65 of 2018, a resolution accepting a proposal to complete a full residential curbside bulk trash pickup for all residents within the town of Clinton Park.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Romano. This is a very popular program. I do want to thank County Waste. Each year we send out 20 or more solicitations to companies to gauge interest. If there are companies out there that are interested in helping us with our bulk waste program, the only company that's ever responded was County Waste, and that was true again this year. And even though they've always been the only responder to our RFP, they've maintained a very low and fair price. This year, $108,000, which is right about where it was last year. So we thank them for their willingness to perform the service free of charge to residents. Obviously not, the town does pay County Waste for the service, but it is free to residents. So we appreciate their willingness to conduct the service and that they maintain an affordable price. So we'll be kicking that off April 16th. It'll run over a month's time. The town, as we do every time we conduct the service, the town will be split into 3 segments. And each area of town will be assigned a week in which their refuse will be picked up at the curbside. So all that information will be on the website very soon, but if you're in the week 1 segment, you'll be placing your items at the curb on the Sunday prior to the Monday of the first week. And over the course of the week, County Waste will service that first segment of the town. The second week they go to the second segment, third, and then they'll go to the apartments as well. So we'll follow the same structure as we have many times in the past. But it's a very popular program. I'm sure it'll be popular again this year. Any discussion? Okay.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, so please watch the website. This week we will have all that information up, so you can plan as you do your spring cleaning. So again, that's April 16th will be the first day. All right, any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay, we'll go to public privilege. If you'd like to speak on a town matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward. State your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less. So are there any takers this evening who would like to discuss a town matter? Going once, going twice, okay. I know the students are just hoping, they're just hoping we're going for another hour. This can't be over already. It's only 9:05. Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you.